Hi there, everybody. I was a bit nervous then because last time we started it didn't quite work, Paul, did it? But
No, it was a mild
welcome,
panic.
welcome along, everyone. As you can see, collars are open this evening to a very hot, Thursday, middle of June. It's really, really great to have everyone down here. Reading the comments just before we came live. It's great to see some familiar faces in there, but also a number of new faces. So I do hope that you all find the next hour or so as hopefully informative, and you all take something out of it. This is very much a open kind of platform. If you have a question, do fire that in there. We will try and go through as many as possible at the end. But yeah, we like to be as interactive as possible on this, don't we, Paul?
We do.
But yeah, fire any questions that you have during the time, and yeah, we'll get going. It's great to see. Actually, we've just hit over the 100 mark now of attendees. So really great attendance for such a warm day. So who are we, Paul? Who are you?
Me? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm no one, me. So, Director of Sales and Lettings, massive fly. Did you see that?
No.
Director of Sales and Lettings, been at Boydens for 10 years, been in the industry for about 25 years now. So, seeing a considerable amount of change back in the day.
And a big change coming up this year.
Huge change. Absolute huge change, yes.
Obviously, we are both professionally qualified, and we've also taken up over the last kind of 24 months. We actually are speaking to people inside our sector as well, kind of giving them insights as to the changes, and also in terms of running a lettings and estate agency business a little bit different to what it was in the 80s. So a little bit about ourselves as a company. My grandfather actually set up Boydens in 1966. As you can see there's a picture of my dad and my granddad, and a more recent one taken at I think that was September last year, when Dad actually took up the chairman role, and I've stepped into the hot seat as the managing director. So yeah, 3 generations, and I just thought that's a nice bit of history there. We're not a firm that have been around for 5 minutes, and we are a fairly decent sized firm now. That's a little bit more than 45 members of staff now. I think we're about 48, 49 members of staff now. And we're here to help you with all sides of the residential sector, be it estate agency, sales, residential lettings and management. We also have a thriving leasehold and estate management side of the business as well. And we do holiday lets down in our coastal branch, which we are also looking at potentially growing that area of the business. So if you have got anything on that front, please do contact us. And we are also property sources for investors. So those that are on the call today, if you are looking to invest further in property, then we are happy to help about what we can offer on that front, aren't we, Paul?
Absolutely.
And that's a little bit of a demographic for you guys. I did see someone was in France watching. So this is where we are in the kind of North Essex, South Suffolk area. And we have just moved into the Chelmsford area as well, Paul, haven't we?
Yes, very exciting.
Yeah, is indeed. So, Paul, any highlights since we last spoke?
It seems like not that long ago that we last spoke, but I know it was just over 3 months, wasn't it? But the time flies by. There's been, we'll go into legislation updates and bits and pieces a little bit later on, but I think there's been some positive news. We've been able to help quite a few landlords. I know that one of my colleagues has managed to help a landlord who had quite a few properties just sitting empty, believe it or not. didn't know what to do with them. They weren't compliant. She just needed someone to guide her. So one of the team sat down with her and they had a good old session with her, got the properties up to compliant. They've let them all out, and she's now benefiting from a nice income. So that was quite nice to see, actually, and that was actually from the last webinar.
Okay.
Last webinar.
Just booked in what a
Just booked in,
health kind of
booked
call
a Tennessee health check.
Yeah.
Just on the off chance, is you probably can't help me, but
Mm.
and the team all over it. So yeah, that was really nice to see.
Super stuff. And likewise, along the line, we've helped a couple of landlords actually dispose of assets as well, which they that they kind of felt in a bit of rigmarole, didn't want to go through the process of getting a tenant out, and we've managed to find an investor that's taken it on straight away for a landlord, which has meant the tenant hasn't been disturbed, and that's been a real success story as well for the last 3 months. But we've also you might have, well, I don't think you have forgotten it, but we've grown our portfolio in the Braintree branch as well. We had a really good acquisition in which we took over the lettings management stock of well-established firm Jocelyn Chase, which is a great bonus to us, and the landlords have been really happy with the changes that we've made so far, haven't they? Which is,
it's working well.
Really exciting. But let's get stuck into a little bit of a market update now, guys. I'm just going to make myself smaller so you can just see there. In terms of this was taken off of off Rightmove in terms of what has been going on. So new sellers asking prices have actually dropped by 0.3% there, as you can see this month, to 378,240. That is nationally. It is quite unusual for there to be a dip in June, but price expectations have come to be a bit of a realization, because there is quite a lot of property on the market, and if you are looking to sell, then it is far better to go on at a price that entices and gets offers straight away, rather than putting it on for a high price, not getting the interest there, and then slowly having to come down. I actually read a stat the other day. Oh yeah, it's in here. The bottom line there. Rightmove data shows that homes which attract an inquiry on the first day of marketing are 22% more likely to find a buyer than homes which take more than 2 weeks to receive their first inquiry. So it really is key to price it right at the right time. But take a picture of that, guys, if you want to read that. I'm not going to sit here and talk through that, because we're not for death by PowerPoint, so to speak. This is quite an interesting one. I thought this was quite exciting. Apologies if you can hear the car alarm going off in the background there, guys. I hope that's not being picked up. But have a little look on there. As you can see, we're trending in line in Colchester with the most of the area. I will just move that out of the way slightly, and we saw a 4.9% rise on that front. Just let you all absorb that for a moment, and then a little bit more on the rent side, which is mainly what you guys will be interested in. And as you can see, we actually thought, didn't we, Paul, that rents had kind of stabilised a little bit over the last year. But actually, private rents in Colchester over the last year, we've seen a 10.9% rise from April 24 to April 25. And myself and Paul, we had a little sit down earlier on today, and we kind of thought, what's the reason for this kind of increase in average rent going up? And we kind of feel that it is potentially because of there is actually becoming a smaller gap between the one beds and kind of your 3-bed houses. Historically, you'd be looking at a 1-bed flat and be getting 425, 475, and a 3-bed house would be 1,100, something like that. whereas those one bed flats are now kind of 800, maybe even over into the nines now, whereas the 3-bed houses have moved up a bit, 14, 1500, but it's just everything is coming up to join it, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, it's your middle stuff is the rents are accelerating at a higher rate than your higher end stuff. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's have a look where we were next. I might have to shut that window because that is very annoying. Mortgage update. Yeah, we saw a decrease or a rate decrease by 0.25 in April. Now down to 4.25. Speaking to Chris Pargin, our mortgage advisor, we didn't really see this relate down to many products on the market. Didn't have a massive kind of change of what the end consumer was seeing, but still the best advice, much as we did say back in February when we last met, is to start looking 6 months prior to any fixed mortgage rate ending. Get a deal done then, and then if it improves within that 6 months to the end of the term, is to then do another kind of fact find then, because the mortgage world is so volatile, it may well kind of spike up, and if you haven't got something sorted before, you may well see you may have to go onto a roller or sign a deal that you really wouldn't necessarily want to do. So Paul, I'll just stop that there for a second. I'll just check, is there anything you'd like to kind of bring in terms of the market or anything like that, Paul?
Well, I think it's on a lettings perspective, demand. We constantly assess demand in all of our branches, and that hasn't dropped in any way, shape, or form. Demand remains incredibly strong for all of the areas that we cover. It's simply a lack of properties at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I'm just checking if there's any questions with reference to there, guys. If you have asked a question, you see it disappear from the chat, don't panic. That's because I'm moving it into the Q&A department, just so we don't lose it for later on. But right, let's get into a little bit more of a landlord focused element to it, and annual checks. Landlords must be staying on top of, Paul.
Yes.
I think the first one, if you're not doing the first one, then you're
in trouble.
You shouldn't be a landlord anymore.
Yeah, you're in trouble. I think everybody knows gas safety regulations. I think the small part of this that everybody potentially doesn't know is the link to the Deregulation Act in the manner and how which we did cover slightly on the old webinar, is that making sure that the gas safety is served on the tenants in the correct way. Don't just leave it with your contractor to leave on the sideboard for when the tenants come home. Make sure you do serve it, i.e. send it to your tenant, whether it be in the post or whether it be by an email, a copy of which you can keep to prove that you have served it. That way you are covered under the DREG Act. That will all change, obviously, when the Renters' Rights Bill comes in. But yeah, that's quite important. EICRs, we put that one in now. I can't believe it's been 5 years since this come around. Electrical Installation Condition Report came in 5 years ago, and there was mass panic. Not enough contractors in the world to try and get all the electrical certs done. It's the anniversary.
And it was a nightmare, wasn't it? Because it was during, it had that mixed in with the COVID times. People were very nervous to have anybody in their houses at the time as well in certain situations. So yeah, that was a logistical nightmare.
It was. Unfortunately, we had Laura here who sorted it all out, which was great. But that's up for the 5-year anniversary. Important that people carry on with those. It's just because it passed the last one doesn't necessarily mean it's going to pass this one. There's a different edition, which we've seen a few fuse boards fail as a result of the updated edition. So it's important that landlords continue to have that completed. And again, on the service of things, make sure it's served on a tenant 28 days after it's completed. If there are any category 1 issues, they need to be addressed straight away, category 1 and category 2. Category 3 is a recommendation. But yeah, it's important that they are completed and sent to the tenants. If it does foul, you can send the tenant a works order to prove that the work has been carried out. You don't necessarily have to have the certificate carried out again.
And in terms of Paul, if you haven't had it done, is that can you not serve notice on the tenant for vacation, or
it's not linked to the DREG Act, so you can still serve notice on the tenant. However, if you don't have it done, then there will be a fine heading your way. Okay. If the local authority were to find out, and also if the tenant were to suffer any kind of harm as a result of defective electric installations at the property, and you didn't have any ICR there to protect you, then you've got things like the Defective Premises Act. You're talking about HHSRS Category 1. So yeah, it's a whole minefield. Just get it done. That's the quickest and easiest thing, but you can't let unless you have it done. So it's important that people do renew those. A lot of people get confused with EICRs and EPCs. The EPC has a 10-year lifespan, the EICR has a 5-year lifespan. So it's important to get the two sorted.
Absolutely. This is more of one to deal with at the start of a tenancy, smoke and CO alarm tests, or making sure they're in, because that does fall as obligation of the tenant to make sure the batteries are kept on top of. However, Paul, I think you're going to go into a little bit more detail as to probably best practice of
so it's
allowing it to happen that way as such.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the responsibility of the landlord to make sure that the smoke alarm and the CO detector are tested on the first day of the tenancy, and that's recorded. It's not a case of just testing it; it has to be recorded. It is the tenant's responsibility to make sure that the batteries are functional in both of the detectors throughout the duration of the tenancy. However, from a due diligence and best practice point of view, really the landlord ought to test the battery functionality on both the alarms periodically, just to make sure. Because if let's assume the tenant doesn't test it, the batteries die, and God forbid, house goes up in flames, and the landlord then says, "Well, I tested it at the beginning." I think the local authorities turn around and say, "Well, can you prove that it was working?" No, and they can't ask the tenant because he's dead. So, from a due diligence point of view, don't just test it. Make sure it's recorded. You have it recorded. We visited on this date. Press a button. Everything was working fine.
Yep, signed off on that front. This one is a little bit of a grey, not a grey area, but it's more of, you either do need to worry about it or you don't so much, in terms of empty properties, or if something's been empty for a longer period of time.
Then it's more if you got your water tank, but also anywhere that you've got sitting water. So it could be water servicing a washing machine. If you've got a property that's void for a period of time, then really, it ought to be checked. And one of the things that we have certainly in our tenancy agreements, especially now this time of year when it's nice and warm and tenants are going away on an annual leave, when they return, they are to flush the system through. So, for instance, don't just turn the tap on and drink the first glass of water. Let it run for a period of time. Exactly the same with the showers. Let it run for a period of time so you can remove that stagnant water that's sitting in the system.
I'm just quickly looking, Paul, at my poll about who knows about sanction and PEP checks that came in May the 14th.
Oh, yeah.
14% yes, 85% no. So we'll
stay tuned.
We'll touch on that in a moment. And guys, there's usually about half a minute delay on what you can see to what we're saying, basically. So like Tim there, if you need a copy of slides or anything, then let us know afterwards, and we can also always send something through on that front, just so the engagement's going to be slightly delayed on that front. Just wanted to make you guys aware of that. Tenancy agreement review. That's a heavy one, isn't it, Paul? There's a lot
This
in there,
is,
isn't there?
yeah. So this is actually one that's really quite current at the moment, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit more depth later with the Renters' Rights Bill.
Yeah.
But it's making sure, every landlord needs to now be assessing their tenancy agreements. Are my tenants paying the right rent?
Yeah.
Have they been to the property recently? Are there any potential Category 1 HHSRS issues that need to be addressed? Who's living in my property? Do I know all the tenants that are living there? Is there any routine maintenance that needs to be carried out? So everything like this needs to be reviewed. If there's ever any question or doubt, is my tenant a good tenant? Do I want my tenant in place for the next, I don't know how many years? Then serious consideration needs to be given to whether or not you utilize the Section 21 while still here, remove the tenant and start fresh. Because once the Renters' Rights Bill is in, your freedom to do a lot of that will be removed, or it will be a lot harder to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, I think we'll keep to insurance, not landlord insurance, because we're going to touch on that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But in terms of insurance renewals, just make sure you're on top of it with building insurance and those kind of things. Yeah, it's amazing how quickly something like that can overlap, and yeah, it's just another box to make sure you're ticked annually to keep yourselves covered.
Make sure the values are right as well. Make sure your property values are right on your insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to post?
Right. What are we on to now then? So I believe we are on to PEPs and sanction checks.
PEPs and sanctions, right? This is not exciting by any show, so just bear with me. So May the 14th, there was a change in the guidance from the OFSI in that letting agents were deemed to be a business that needed to carry out sanctions and PEP checks on prospective landlords and tenants. So what our clients will see is us asking for a level of information in terms of ID so that we can carry out the sanctions and PEP checks. That will be done at the point of instruction. We will also need to do it on all tenants prior to them signing a tenancy agreement. Now, that is, if you are a managed landlord, there's nothing you need to do because it forms part of the service that we will provide. And what happens is, as the managing agent, we would need to carry out what's called ongoing assessments. So periodically, we would need to assess the tenants whether or not they're appearing on the sanctions and PEP checks, and if they are, we have to take the necessary action. So let's assume you're a tenant, you're not on the sanctions and PEP check, and by PEP we mean politically exposed.
Yeah,
you got it up there. Yeah, good. You're at the point of referencing that you're clear, but then 12 months later, say when we do the ongoing check, you now appear on that sanctions list. It's unlawful for us and the landlord to continue to receive rent from that tenant, and we'd need to refer it to the OFSI for further instruction. Likewise, if you are referencing a tenant and you're doing the sanctions and PEP check, and it comes up they're on the sanctions list, then it's unlawful for us to let to that tenant, and the landlord would need to obtain a specific license from the OFSI in order to allow that tenancy to continue. The one thing I would hasten to add, if you are a self-managing landlord, the guidance suggests that as a landlord, you are responsible for carrying out the ongoing assessment of your tenants. So periodically, you would need to carry out sanctions and PEP checks against all of your tenants in situ. And if you do find that they are on that list, you then need to take the necessary action. So that's, as I say, if you're managed, you don't need to really know about it. You don't really need to worry. The only thing that you will see is us as agents asking for a little bit more information so that we can ensure we're compliant. But if you are a self-managing landlord, whilst you don't need to worry about the initial check, because we will do that as part of the referencing, the ongoing checks, you do need to diary to make sure you carry those out. Now, fines, I don't know if you want to just shoot across those slides, Phil.
Yeah, bear with me a second.
Fines are, there you go. Fines are absolutely huge. So it takes 2 seconds to do a check. And if you don't know how to do it, speak to the agent, speak to us, and we can sort it out for you. But yeah,
I was just checking. I was just playing around with the slides there, Paul. So I don't know whether I heard you talking about that. If you if you continue to take money from someone that's sanctioned, that is when the issue.
It's unlawful. Yeah. So if you find that they are on the sanctions list or they're a PEP and you continue to take rent from them without authority, then that's unlawful. What you need to do is it has to be referred to the OFSI in the first instance, and for them to tell you what it is that needs to be done. So you can't let them if you do it initially, but if you have let them because they passed the initial check, but then all of a sudden they appear, you can't then continue to receive the rent. You have to refer and take their guidance.
And there is that slide. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, and they're going to get quite strict with this. So I'd imagine there's probably going to be, well, there already has been fines, so I'd imagine there'll be quite a few fines flying around. So it's something for a self-managing landlord to pencil into their diary to carry out periodic checks on all of the tenants.
And is it quite a task to carry out these checks, Paul?
Not necessarily a task. No, I mean, what we do as agents, we pay for third parties to carry out the checks, and they screen the sanctions and PEP register for us, and then provide us a report. Yeah. That's, for us, is then our due diligence. We save the report on the system, so if we're ever audited, we can say, look, this is being carried out. It's probably going to be a little harder for a self-managing landlord because we prescribe to these providers and we send them X amount of searches, whereas perhaps a self-managing landlord won't have access to those providers, so they will just have to manually check the sanctions list and the PEP list on the government website. They can do it manually. Mm-hmm. It's a bit laborious, but it can be done. Or, as I say, you can pay an agent and then the agent can just do it for you.
Yeah, so there you've got a couple of questions. How do you do the checks? Yeah, how do sanction and PEP checks? What are the sanctions? And David has just said he uses the NRLA service on that front. So, a few bits on there. Any questions on PEPs and sanctions or anything else to add on that front, Paul?
No, nothing to add other than to say just it's just another thing a self-managing landlord would need to pen in their diary periodically to make sure they do.
Yeah. Another one to add to the list. So
another one to add to the list, yeah. Absolutely.
And it is something if you have got properties in other areas of the country as well that are managed by other agents, then it might be worth just firing off an email to ask them what they're up to.
I tell you what, Phil, there's a lot of agents that totally missed this on the 14th of May. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of landlords that we've been speaking to who have said, "Well, my other agent doesn't do that." And we're like, "Oh, cracky, right? You best speak to them then because it's law, and it was law from the 14th of May." So yeah, it's well worth. If you've not heard from another agent who you're using, it's well worth having that conversation with them.
Mm-hmm. So stuff. Right? Shall we? Do we dare say the words? Renters' rights bill. Do we dare get into that realm? So where are we, Paul? We've been doing webinars for the last year.
So this is our fifth one, isn't it?
And yeah, this is the fifth one, and we've been talking about renters' rights, renters' reform, with your chucking out of the paper and everything like that.
Yeah.
Throw that away. But it feels like it's inevitable, but it feels like it's coming.
I tell you what, the next webinar we do, because we do these quarterly. I'll be very surprised if it isn't here. So we are at the report stage. Oh, great graphic. Okay, so this basically tells you where it's. So it's the bill starts in the House of Commons, works its way through, then it goes to the House of Lords. As you can see there, we're at the report stage of the House of Lords. The third reading has already been penned in for early part of July. Then it goes to the final stage where they consider all the amendments. Then it receives royal assent. When it receives royal assent, it goes from a bill to an act. Therefore, it's law. The commencement date isn't the date of royal assent. So the commencement date, the Secretary of State have said, is going to be about 2 to 3 months after royal assent to allow the industry time to prepare. So this is the thing. I believe summer recess is the 22nd of July. So if they can get all of this done before the 22nd of July and including royal assent, then it is an active piece of legislation, which means it will become active late September, early October. It will be here. Now, if they can't, then they'll go away for summer. When they come back, there's a very small window, but then they have their conferences, which then delays it again, which means it probably won't get royal assent to the tail end of September, which means then it won't become an active law until January. Now, we don't know. You speak to many people within the industry, and you speak to well-educated people who've got their finger on the pulse, and we're all thinking October.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is the Labour government is going to want to go to conference and go, we got through the Renters' Rights Bill when the Conservative government couldn't. So that is a big thing for them. So that's why we're thinking October, because they are going to push this through as quickly as possible. Now, there's been hundreds of suggested amendments to the bill. All of those that have been raised by opposing parties have basically just been ignored. There are others that have been raised, have been considered, and there are various different ones that have been raised. I forget what they are now, but there's been various different ones that have been raised, and that is, oh, here we go. Guarantors have been suggested that a guarantor, upon death of a tenant, a guarantor is no longer responsible for the rent. There's been various other ones in terms of making sure there is a fixed term. That's not going to happen. So I think it's a fair assumption to say that the bill is actually going to go through in its current setup. And if there is any changes, it's not going to be a huge amount. So we should all work on what we know and what we have at the moment. One of the key things is we wanted to know when this becomes an active piece of legislation, what happens to the tenancy agreements, because we all know fixed term tenancy agreements disappear from day one. That will form part of the primary legislation. So when the bill comes in, it's going to come in 2 stages. There's no transitionary period, so it will affect all assured short hold tenancies from day one. But you have 2 stages. You have the primary legislation, which will be the change to Section 13 and Section 8, the removal of Section 21.
Yep.
Everything's periodic. The increase in the rent repayment orders from 12 months to 2 years, no fixed term tenancies, which I mentioned, and then obviously the implementation of the landlord database and the landlord ombudsman. Now, secondary legislation will then see the decent home standard and Arab's law, which we've talked about in considerable length. That will come in later on. So if the bill drops, if the commencement date is October this year, decent home standard and Arab's law will not happen until the following year, because there's an awful lot for them to do then. But one of the key things is what happens to a tenancy agreement? Do we reissue all tenants with new tenancy agreements? Now, government's given guidance that if that is the case, then you have 28 days from the date that the Act commences to get your portfolio ready by reissuing those tenancy agreements. We don't know if it'll be a tenancy agreement. We don't know if it'll just be a statement of fact. We're not entirely sure yet, but as soon as we do know, we will let everybody know.
Yeah.
There was talk of costs, because that's one of the key things our clients are asking us, well, what's the cost of the landlord portal, and what information is going to be loaded to the landlord portal. So at the minute, they're waiting for the database operator to be confirmed, but certainly it'll be the details of the landlord. Is that the name? Is that the email? Is that the telephone number? Is that the address? Unlikely to be telephone number and email. Probably will be the address and will be the name of the landlord. Any managing agents that that landlord has appointed will be there, and any previous evictions that that landlord has carried out will also be on the portal. The ombudsman is there for somewhere for the tenants to go. There is an ombudsman in place at the moment which governs letting agents, but they're bringing in the landlord's ombudsman. So if you've got self-managing landlords at the minute, there's nowhere for the tenants to go if they have any issues. They now have a route to follow.
I'm going to go back a bit, Paul, just because of we are, well, especially yourself, very seasoned with exactly what is going on in terms of all of the changes feel like second nature to yourself now. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to bring up the slides just for those at home to kind of. We've done a lot of webinars on obviously on the Renters' Rights Bill, but you know some people may not realise that Section 21s are going to be abolished. And what is a Section 21? Oh,
so a Section 20, good point. A Section 21 is a mandatory possession notice. So it's a generic notice that you can serve on your tenant to end the tenancy on the end of the fixed term, or serving 2 months clear notice on a periodic tenancy. So, well, obviously when the fixed term has ended. It's a prescribed format. You don't have to give a reason. It's a generic form. For whatever reason you want to secure possession, you can issue that. And generally what landlords would do is issue that to secure possession, for instance, if they wanted to sell the property. My experience of landlords in the last 25 years is that they only issue the Section 21 if they want to sell the property or if the tenant's problematic. They don't just do it willy-nilly, because the landlords are letting a property out for a reason. If there's a breach, then you go down the route of Section 8. But that's what Section 21 is. Which we will get
cover
that in a moment. Exactly.
So that is what the Section 21. I thought I'd just kind of make you talk nice and simple.
But it's worth adding that routes to secure possession aren't disappearing entirely. No. It's a different way of doing it. So at the minute you've got Section 21 and 17 grounds under Schedule 2 of the Housing Act. Section 21 goes, but there's now a whole heap more grounds under the Housing Act that you can get possession. And as I say, we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Touch on that in a bit. This second one is it's not really our area. There might be areas in kind of
it's more London based,
something like that.
Yeah, so it's what you've got is to cover situations where a landlord will put a property on the market, say for £1,000, and he's got 5 people who desperately want the property. And we all know this happens because there's a limited amount of properties on the market. Now, at the moment, you could get applicant A says, right, I'll offer 1,000. Applicant B can say, right, well, I'm desperate, I want it, I'll offer 1,050, and that's fine. You've got a product, and people are offering you prices. And that's fine. That happens at the moment, and the landlord has a choice of whether or not they accept it for 1,000 or they go 1,050, even though it's marketed 1,000. Now, what this will do, this will basically mean you can only accept the rent that you market the property for or less. So what it means is that landlords need to be very careful in their pricing strategies to make sure that they are marketing that property at a level of rent that's going to give them the return that they need to cover their costs. But then also bearing in mind, it could be quite difficult in the years to come to increase the rent via the Section 13 notice. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later, because the avenues that the tenants can use to contest the rent increase. So naturally, what it will do, landlords will be cautious. So they'll go, right, okay, I'll put the market rent up to 1,100.
Yeah.
Now the government looks at it and say, well, you can't put it above market rent. Right. Well, if everybody does that, then all of a sudden that is market rent.
Yeah.
And so it will just push the rents up. But
there'll actually be more of a negotiation happening, won't there? In a way.
Yeah, it's just that so a landlord or an agent cannot incite or promote the tenant or the applicant to offer any more than the property is marketed for, basically. No fixed term tenancies.
Fixed term tenancy speaks for itself, really, doesn't it?
Everything's periodic from, so if the bill starts, if the act starts tomorrow, it doesn't matter what state of tenancy you have at the moment. You can have a 3-year fixed tenancy, matters not. It immediately reverts to a periodic tenancy.
And in layman terms, that is, it's just an ongoing tenancy month to month.
Yeah, you just don't have security of tenure over an extended period of time.
Absolutely. New standard tenancy agreement, Paul.
Yeah, so we've been asking if the government's going to issue what we call a model tenancy agreement, which will be available from the government website, which landlords could use, which agents could use. We suspect not. And we're trying to understand whether or not new tenancy agreements will need to be issued within 28 days of the commencement of the Act, or can you just issue a letter of terms? We just need to watch that one. That's one of the key ones that we're keeping an eye on, because that's going to be quite a big thing. But at the moment, we simply don't know.
Mm-hmm. And we touched on strengthening Section 8 grounds. I'm just checking. Do we go into that in a lot more detail further on? I'm just having.
No, I don't think we do. I mean, we say strengthening. That's government talk. Basically, what they've done is they've added more, but what we have seen is the notice periods double.
We do go up on.
Oh, we do. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I won't go into chapter and verse.
Next slide, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Rent increases. That is quite a pivotal one. That one, Paul, isn't it? The limit of rent increases, and also going to tribunal, everything like that with reference to that. So talk everyone through that one. Yeah.
Once a year, on anniversary of the tenancy, on the 12-month anniversary of the tenancy, you can issue a Section 13 notice. You don't have to wait till the 12-month anniversary. You can issue it 2 months before, because it's got a 2-month notice period. Now, what happens at the minute, if we do a comparison, I issue you on a Section 13 notice on you, Phil, as my tenant.
Yep.
And what I'm doing is I'm giving you 1 month notice. This is where the rent is, and this is what it's going to. And you go, okay, thank you very much. You have to start paying that upon expiry of that notice.
Yep.
If you don't agree with it, you can refer to the necessary parties, but you have to start paying it. Those necessary parties, upon review of the dispute, could turn around and say, well, actually, Paul was incredibly nice. He didn't put your property to market rent. We put it below market rent, but we're going to increase it to market rent because that's what the market rent is. That's all going to change.
Yeah.
So the Section 13 notice now has to be evidence-based, based on the market rent. So you can't just issue the notice and go, well, I want it to be that. You have to say, right, well, properties of the same description in the area over the same period of time, etc., now demand a market rent of X. So it's an evidence-based,
full kind of report, don't you?
Absolutely.
Of your research of properties that
then goes to the tenant
there and everywhere.
Yeah. With a 2 months notice. Now that tenant has the right, and they can do this free of charge. So why wouldn't they? Refer this to the first tier tribunal, and the first tier tribunal will look at the dispute, and they will make a decision. That decision, they will only increase the rent up until what it is that you have suggested. They won't go beyond that.
No.
Yeah. Even if you're below market rent, so say your market rent for your property is £1,500, I'm taking it to £1,200 because I'm a nice landlord. They will only go to £1,200. They won't go above that.
I say no. I'm not going to pay it.
goes to first tier tribunal. Now, the issue there is that a very kind estimate is that it's going to take the first tier tribunal about 6 months, between 6 and 9 months, to adjudicate a claim. During that time, you, Mr. Tenant, do not have to pay that increased rent. There's no requirement for you to. You only pay it upon adjudication. Now, let's assume 9 months have gone. The adjudicators write to you, Mr. Tenant, and say, right, here we go, here's the rent. This is what you need to pay. We agree with the landlord. What you could then turn around and go, oh, but I'm a bit brassic, I'm a bit skin, I'm suffering hardship. The adjudicator then has the right to delay that increase for a further 2 months. So you're now 10 months down the line. Right, well, what happens at 10 months? You then do in another Section 13 for the following year. So you could find yourself a year behind, and that's why it's so important that landlords are now setting the rents, the market rents now,
getting them
because
up where they should be.
because if you increase, you're going to have additional fees with the Renters' Rights Bill. There will be additional fees from government for the portal, for the ombudsman, etc. If you're then moving from here all the way to here, the adjudicators are looking and go, oh, but if you're moving from here to here, your chances are you're going to get that through a lot quicker.
And also the tenant is less likely to to go, oh no, I'm not happy with that.
So if you're like a £50 a month increase, £100 a month increase, that's a lot more digestible than all of a sudden going to £500 a month, which naturally they'll turn around, sucking through their teeth and go, hell no, I'm going to refer that. And it doesn't cost them, so why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So that's a real important one.
Pets in lets.
Pets in lets, yay! There's lots of misunderstanding with this, with tenants at the moment who have seen a little bit and saying, oh, but you're legally required to let me have a pet. No, it's not law yet. But when it does become law, there is a legal requirement for the landlord to consider the request for a pet, not to just carte blanche and say you can have any pet you want. It has to be seriously considered, and you can't just say, no, I don't want you to. There needs to be a reasonable reason behind it. Now, the government's decided that they're not going to list out what all the reasonable reasons are because it's too lengthy. So they're going to leave it to, again, the first tier tribunal to establish what is considered reasonable should the tenants refer it to them. Now, the good thing is they are going to adjust the tenant fee ban, the Tenant Fees Act, so that we can charge agents, landlords can charge the tenants for pet insurance. And my recommendation is don't get your tenant to take out the pet insurance, because they'll take it out, they'll get your agreement to have the pet, they'll cancel the insurance, then you've got nothing to fall back on. What you want to do is, as a landlord, if you are agreeing it, you have to take out the policy, recharge that to the tenants. So the tenants have to be specific. They can't just say, I want a dog.
Yeah.
They have to say to you, I would like a 3-year-old Labrador, whatever it might be. Right. The landlord has the right to view said pet to make up their mind. Also, the landlord has the right to say no if the lease, so on a leasehold property, doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
But also, they have the right to refuse if you've got a 1-bed house and the tenant wants 3 Great Danes.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's not going to work, is it?
And I don't know whether you commented on it, Paul, but there is due to be a change in there that you can get an insurance policy and charge the tenant on that. Is that right?
You can charge the tenants the premiums, only the premiums, and you can also charge the tenant the excess in the event that you have to make a claim. But one thing that did come out was that if I were to give you, my tenant, permission, okay, and then your pet started causing a nuisance, or I took dislike to your pet for whatever reason, I can't withdraw that permission. Once it's given, that's it.
The interesting one from Valerie, just as we're cracking through it, Paul, just to clarify, are we having to take out pet insurance on that particular animal, or is it rental pet insurance if that exists? Has any policies? I suppose no policies have been.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you will see an influx. So what will happen is the big policy providers will start providing you with rental pest insurance. The reason they're not doing it at the moment because they don't quite know the ins and outs of it. But it certainly will be something we'll be looking at with our current providers as well. So it will be an add-on to the rent and legal policy that we have. You'll have access to pet insurance as well to cover you.
Absolutely, absolutely. There was a couple of questions already with reference to the. I think you've touched on the landlord ombudsman anyway in your initial chat, Paul. Anything to add on that, or
no? It's there for as an avenue for the tenants to go down in the event that they have a dispute with the landlord before they go to the first tier tribunal.
Yeah. And in terms of the rented sector database, there is going to be a cost associated with that. I did see a question there whether there was going to be a cost, but yeah, there will be an nominal cost.
So I've been sort of scouring the internet to try and establish what the cost is on this, and there's the government did a cost analysis, and there was a suggestion. Don't quote me. But there was a suggestion.
Who's going to write this down, Paul?
This would be £22 per property per year.
Per year.
That was per year. That was the suggestion. Okay. I don't know what that's going to be because obviously the provider of the database hasn't yet been. But when they were doing their costings, that's what they were thinking. They're basically saying they're going to try and keep it as low as possible. But ultimately, whatever it is has to be paid because it's a mandatory requirement. It's unlawful to let your property, and it's unlawful to continue with a tenancy in the absence of the registration. That basically means a £7,000 fine. If you do it again, that's a £40,000 fine. Right.
Moving on. We won't do decent home standards and Arab's law now because we're going to definitely have another webinar in between then, and I can already see we're 52 minutes in. So yeah, we want to get on to more of the
quickly on that, Phil. Decent home standard is to basically is everyone keeps an eye on the Boydens website and the social medias. What we do is when the stuff comes in, I blog.
Yeah.
So there's lots of information that when we get it, we basically release it straight away just to keep people updated. So it's on the news section of the Boydens website.
I will just publish the socials. So if you guys go scan that or click the link to our link tree, you can then see on there's news from Boydens where you can read all of Paul's blogs. You can also see our YouTube channel to watch the old webinars back, as well as kind of updates on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn and the like. So do go through to that, guys, and follow us on our social media platforms. But yeah, we said that we were going to touch on this a little bit more, Paul, didn't we? Section 8 grounds, which they are increasing on that front, but topically they're putting a few more in, but they're also massively increasing the notice periods, aren't they? They're kind of talk us through that, Paul.
Well, the first thing to consider is that you go up there. If you're looking to sell, that document you gave me earlier, if you're looking to sell on a new tenancy agreement, you can't do that within the first 12 months of the tenancy. To do so is a violation. That's a £7,000 fine. But yes, the quickest and easiest way to remember this is that if you want possession of the property where the tenant has not breached the tenancy, then the rule of thumb is you need to give your tenant 4 months' notice. That's the quickest and easiest way to remember it. If you're wanting possession as a result of a breach, then those notice periods differ. Now, the most common one, obviously, is ground 8, which is the mandatory arrears. That currently moves from 2 months, which is what it is at the moment, to 3 months rent arrears. So I did a little calculation just to show the severity of this, and this is based on worst case scenario. Let's assume the rent is £1,100, which I think is our average rent at the moment. So your tenant has to be 3 months in arrears before you can issue, not go to court, but before you can issue the Section 8 notice. You're already in for £3,300 rent. You issue the Section 8 notice after the given notice period before you can issue proceedings. You're now in for £4,400 rent. All right. Let's assume the courts are running at the current delay. I imagine they're going to be considerably more, but let's assume it's 6 months, which is what we're seeing at the moment. So you've now got 6 months rent on top of that. You're now in for £11,000 worth of rent. All right. You get to court, you get your 30-day possession notice because it's a mandatory ground. You're now at 12,100. Let's assume your tenant doesn't leave upon expiry of the notice. So you need a court bailiff. Court bailiffs are roughly between 6 and 8 weeks wait at the moment. That's going to get a lot more. You're now at 14,300. This is eye-watering money. And what we've not factored into here is costs, solicitor costs, court costs, bailiff costs, locksmith costs. So roughly £17,500, which is a scary amount of money before you even get possession of your property.
But that is so it can happen so easily, can't it, Paul?
It can. So the thing is, it's like you carry out your referencing, and your referencing is a snapshot of that person's affordability. And what we're seeing now is it's not a case of tenants not wanting to pay. Any claims that we have to make is simply a case of tenants who can't pay. Now, that could have been death of a co-tenant. It could be loss of work. It could be injury. Anything that affects their income has reduced their ability or stopped their ability to pay. That's what we're seeing. And the scary thing is, no amount of referencing can tell you that. But we have a solution.
And also, Paul, we did do on the previous webinar about referencing and the amount of kind of fraudulent references that have actually been stopped. People kind of changing ID and doing all sorts to get through things. So again, our referencing procedures is more than just getting an old landlord's reference. I think your comment from the last one was, if you're a landlord and you get a landlord reference from a really bad tenant, what do you want to do? You want to go?
He's a perfect tenant. He's a perfect tenant, Phil. You can, welcome. Yeah, I mean, landlord references a minute mean absolutely toffee. They don't mean anything because there's no comeback on them. So yeah, if you've got a poor tenant, are you going to write to your new landlord and go, well, you don't want this tenant, he's an absolute pain in the arse, leave him with me. I'll continue renting to him.
So David has asked, does landlord insurance cover missed rent and repossession fees? Well, that will all depend, David, on your policy. So Paul, talk to us. Obviously, we pride ourselves with having what we think is the best landlord policy that money can buy, basically. So Paul, you know the policy far better than myself. So talk us through what you get from a policy from ourselves, basically.
Before I do, I just, on the back of that, I hasten to add, during COVID, we were one or two policy providers that continued to pay. All your big Direct Line, etc., simply withdrew payments. And we're not paying out on the landlord policies. But yes, more about our policy. So we've been working very closely with the policy provider to try and create something that is basically renters' rights ready. So we have a policy now for existing clients, but any new policy that we open from the 1st of June is renters' rights ready and gives our landlords the extra protection that is needed. Now, one of those pieces of protection is about the Section 13 notice. So if your tenant doesn't pay the increase in the Section 13, we will cover the difference so that a landlord is consistently getting the income that they deserve. But so our policy covers all of the rent. So from day one, there is no excess, which a lot of policy providers will insist on 1 or 2 months excess. We claim on day 31. That will change when the bill comes in, and we'll claim a little bit later because you can't actually do anything. So probably day 45. But as soon as we claim, the landlord starts receiving an income, and they'll continue to receive that income until such time we get possession. It covers all of the court costs. It covers all the solicitor costs. It covers the bailiff costs. Doesn't cover lot changes that are needed at the point of a bailiff appointment, but it covers all the solicitor and court costs, and that will basically cover you up to £100,000, which is a significant amount of money. So a lot of our landlords at the moment, thankfully, we don't get many claims that go through because the need isn't there, because we have good credit control systems set up. But unfortunately, if they do go to claim, then basically it doesn't affect the landlord. The landlord continues to receive that income. Now, I know what I would want to do if I was a landlord: pay for a rent and legal policy or not. I think I'm going to pay for a rent and legal policy because we know the timescales are going to vastly increase under the Renters' Rights Bill. But with a policy, you are 100% protected.
It's not just the cost of it. Well, it is obviously the cost associated with it, but it's the time frame with it. If you were to have a mortgage on a property and the tenant wasn't paying for the rent, and you needed that rent coming in to pay that mortgage, you could find yourself with bad credit because you're having to defer on mortgage repayments, and it's just a bit of a spiral in terms of on that front, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, and it's also as well this whole taking your tenant to court, issuing a notice, etc., is quite complex. And if you do something wrong, you don't know until you get to court and you're sitting in front of the judge and the judge is reviewing all of the documentation. Then they can say, well, no, this is adjourned because you've done this and this wrong. So off you go, do that right, and start the whole process again. If you're doing it yourself, there's no one there that's going to review everything for you before you get to court. Yes, you could use a local solicitor, expect to pay about £2,500 worth of fees. But yeah, but the beauty of the rent guarantee is that you're going to call from me or one of my colleagues to say your tenant's fallen into arrears. We'll get a payment over to you shortly. There's nothing you need to do, and we'll touch base with you monthly and let you know what the process is. But if when you get possession of the property as well, there is a percentage of the rent that will continue to be paid to you on the basis that you remarket the property, just to help you out with bits and pieces that need to be done on the property, as well as the deposit, of course.
If anyone would like to speak to us privately about that, about the landlord and rent and legal cover, then please do click here to request a call back, and fill in those details there, and either myself or Paul will give you a call to talk through that process, because I think as a landlord it's a must have really now, isn't it, Paul?
100%.
Unless you've got 50 properties or 100 properties, and you can go, right, well, if one's not paying, then the others can pay for that one, covering the cost of there. But if you've got 10 sub 10, then it's such a massive amount of money to find to bridge the gap really on that front, isn't it, really? But so on to, we've kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent down Section 8 and rent and legal, but in terms of since we last spoke, Paul, just whilst people were kind of asking any questions, stuff like that, I think there was an ask for there to be hundreds of changes to the bill, weren't there, Paul?
There was,
But I don't think they were particularly interested in hearing any lobbied kind of changes or thoughts. There have been a couple of changes.
Suggested amendments.
Okay.
Yeah. There's been a few suggested amendments that are being considered, and this is what's being considered at the moment, the reporting stage, and then they go through the amendments. But it's fair to say, if you are not a member of the Labour government, your suggested amendment has been disregarded. Simple as that. So one of the amendments was talking about rent, limiting the rent in advance. Now, at the minute, if a tenant applies for a property and says, "I want to give you 12 months rent in advance," okay, no problem. You can accept that should you wish. What the bill is going to bring in, what the suggestion brings in, is that that advance rent is limited to 1 month only. It can only be charged once the tenancy agreement has signed and executed. So everybody needs to think carefully about how we start a tenancy agreement, because the normal process now is you carry out the referencing, you ask for the first month's rent in advance, you bank that, you then ask for the deposit, you bank that, tenant sign the tenancy agreement, away you go. That will all change. So the whole process of it will have to change in terms of you need to get the tenants to sign and execute the tenancy agreement first. Only then can you demand the rent. Now, that, just to add in there, our policy also protects landlords from first payment default. So if the tenant doesn't pay the first month's rent, you're instantly covered.
I'm just going to go back there. Yeah, immediate relief if the first rent's not paid by the tenant.
Yeah, whereas the policies at the moment demand that the tenant's paid the first month's rent. But this will cover that.
Covers that front on there. But guys, if you any mention on anything else there, Paul, to bring to
other than guarantors, in the event that a tenant dying, the suggestion is that the current guarantor liability ceases with immediate effect.
Which then, going back to to these, I think that
you still got to give the dead tenant 2 months notice if you want possession.
The dead tenant 2 months notice to get it. There you go. Right. So key takeaways from today, and guys, if you have got questions, please do put them in there. We'll get onto those in a minute. But key takeaways: stay on top of obviously those annual compliance checks. A real hot one, which I think will sting a few people, is the EICRs. It's amazing how quickly 5 years has gone past.
And I think it's all of the compliance checks, because the Decent Home Standard and Arab's Law is coming. It could be 6 months, it could be 8 months, but it is coming. But what you want to do now is to start the process of making sure your property is compliant, rather than waiting for that to start and then flapping around trying to get everything sorted out. Because what's going to happen is, already the government is funding local authorities in order for them to set up departments so that they can actively seek properties that don't meet this standard. Now, the difference is, at the moment, any fines for non-compliance goes to central government. The government has given the local authority the ability to retain the fines. So the local authorities having departments set up who are going to be funded, they can retain the fines. Now, all of a sudden, with the landlord database, they don't have to search for landlords anymore. It's all there. So what they're going to do, they're just going to sit on the database, and they're going to set up systems about going to look at properties, and they have extraordinary powers, including entry to residential properties, in the event that they feel there has been a breach, including landlords, home and letting agents. So the idea is now, get everything sorted now, start the process of thinking about, right, okay, that property is a bit tired, maybe I do need to do this, or that tenant keeps complaining about mold, what do I do to rectify that?
So job, understand your PEP sanction obligations, do some research on that one guys, on that front. Read a few of Paul's blogs on the website as well. Cautious market is strong on the letting side, but yeah, review your rents now and kind of go from there. But I'm going to get stuck into a couple of the questions, Paul, if you're ready. I'm just going to remove that off of there. Just quickly before we start on the questions, actually, I'm just going to say that Paul has been very kind to us. He has actually blocked out a few hours in his diary over the next couple of days, which is very good of him, specifically for the guys here that have joined us on the webinar to basically to do some tenancy health checks and talk through any issues that people do have, which we usually charge Paul out at a certain amount.
It's £100, isn't it?
Yeah, for the people here, then you can have a free 30-minute kind of health check call with Paul over the next part. But we have only got limited numbers available on that front, so there is only 12 parts there, so get in early for that front. So let me get on to the Q&As, Paul. I'm going to go from decent homes standards. How is that policed, Paul?
Local authority.
And it will be the tenants as well. The tenants will report it, and then it'll go to local.
That will be £7,000 fine, going up to £40,000 for repeated. But you could also bring into the mix rent repayment orders, which have been extended from 12 months to 24 months. And they've also changed it so the local authority can make a demand for a rent repayment order for on behalf of the tenant.
Mm-hmm. The fines are nice and easy to remember, aren't they?
7,000, 40,000. 7,000 for the first one, 40,000. But what's to remember? So if you've got one property, and you go in and they go, right, well, that's wrong. That's a breach. That's 7,000. And then they go in and go, oh, that's a breach as well. That's not another 7,000. That's straight to 40,000.
Okay.
So it's quite scary.
I'm going to ask this one here. How will this affect taking possession of a property if the landlord needs it to live in? Don't worry, there is provisions. It's mandatory ground 1, occupation by landlord or family. Notice period on that one, Paul? 4 months.
4 months. And that's a mandatory ground as well. Mm-hmm. So as long as you can prove that you're reoccupying, you will not be able to relet the property. So if you secure that underground and then you look to relet the property, that's a breach of £7,000 fine.
Greg's got a very topical one that a lot of landlords do come to us. I'm just going to broadcast that to the room so everyone can have a read of that. Hi, I have a long-term tenant who has been with me for 15 years. He's an old chap with health issues now and is on universal credit. In the 15 years, he's only had 3 rent increases and is on a very low rent. Can his rent be brought up to market value? Thanks, Greg.
Yes.
And how do you do it, Paul?
Section 13. Section 13. So assuming he's on a periodic tenancy, then you do that now. Section 13 notice, bring it up to market rent, because the chances are if he's on universal credit, and I assume that universal credit is going directly to the tenant, it's on a band basis, which means that they would take into consideration the market rent that is demanded for that property. So what you've got at the moment, potentially, I don't know, but potentially you've got the tenant pocketing universal credit, which really ought to be covering rent.
Martin, just surely this conflicts with GDPR requirements. Is that with reference to
about
the landlord database?
The landlord database, right. Okay, so Section 1 Landlord Tenant Act, the tenant has the right to demand the landlord's address anyhow. And if it's an agent has 21 or 28 days, I can't remember which, to give the tenant that information, or that's a breach. So no, that's not a GDPR breach, and most tenancy agreements have the landlord's address on it anyhow.
Super stuff. Thanks, Paul. What are your thoughts on 6 monthly fire alarm tests in non-HMO properties? So normal
standard residential property. Yeah, definitely.
Do it.
What we are going to see with Arab's law is that landlords are going to have to take a proactive approach to maintenance. So rather than waiting for the tenants to report it, landlords have to actively seek that out. And the only way they can do that is carry out regular routine visits. And whilst you're there, press the button.
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, I'll get rid of that from Martin. Thank you very much, Martin, for your question. What happens to Section 21 notices served before the new law comes into force, but run to after that date.
Yeah.
Are they still valid, or do new notices have to be served?
No. So as long as you as long as the Section 21 notice you have served is valid and you've done it correctly, etc., or one that has been served and you've chosen not to enforce it straight away, you get a time limit in which you should enforce it. As long as you're compliant in that regard, they are still active once the law changes. You will not, but basically, once the law comes in, Section 21 won't exist. So if you still wanted possession, you'd need to seek it through another ground under Section 8.
And David, is buy-to-let still profitable in 2025? Wondering about getting my first in Frinton area where I'm based, or should I look further afield? David, come and have a chat with us, and it depends what you want to achieve out of it. But yeah, we can certainly find you something that is right for yourself, be it something more on a long term, or whether you're principally looking at yield. Then yeah, that's something we can certainly help you out with and point you in the right direction, and hopefully source something for you, David. So please do get in contact. And yeah, we'd love to help you find something, David, on that front. Graham as well, our charges and those kind of things, come and have a chat with us. Book him for a tenancy health check. I can see we're already down to only 3 spots left actually on the tenancy health check. So book in on that, and yeah, we can talk through costs and those kind of things further down the line. Paul, unless you've got any burning ones, I think we've been going for 1 hour and 16 minutes. I kind of feel like that's a good level of interest, and I think we've covered a fair amount. I can't believe it's been 1 hour and 16 minutes. It feels like we've probably been on the call for about 10 minutes. But
just get everyone to look at the blogs on the website. Keep an eye on the social media, because we are constant. The minute we do these quarterly, but there's going to be considerable change between now and the next one. What we might do is we might record another one if it gets royal assent and official guidance is issued. We'll do another one to go through that. But we're blogging all the time, so as soon as we find anything out, then there's a blog that goes out. So they're the best way to get up to date.
Absolutely. And also for the local amongst us, we are hoping to do when it does drop, we are hoping to do something live and in the room, because there's a number of names here that we really enjoy spending an hour or so with you guys virtually. But it'll be great to get together in a room and actually do a physical seminar one evening with a bit of food afterwards, and then we can all chew the fat, so to speak, and work together through it. But any questions, guys, throw them our way. But again, follow us on our socials for all updates. But it's been a really nice evening, and thank you for joining us. Anything to add, Paul?
No, I just want to go and have a beer now. So it's hot.
Oh, that's a rarity, isn't it? Actually,
it is a rarity. Yeah.
But no, thanks, guys, and yeah, we'll see you all soon. Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye.